Some mornings, you wake up expecting nothing more than a quiet cup of coffee and maybe a few minutes of peace. That was all I wanted. Ethan, a 42-year-old divorced dad, sitting on my porch in a lawn chair, savoring the suburban silence. But life has a way of laughing at your plans. That morning, I stepped outside, barefoot, coffee in hand, and froze. There on my porch were 3 buzzing beehives, wooden boxes humming with thousands of tiny, venomous invaders. A sticky note on my door read, "You're welcome. Bees are nature's gift. Marge." I blinked, hoping it was a hallucination. It wasn't. Marge, my next-door neighbor, is the HOA president, a self-proclaimed bee whisperer, and the kind of person who wears T-shirts that say "bloom where you're planted" without a hint of irony. Her latest shirt? "Pollinate joy." It felt like a threat. I stood there, coffee going cold, as bees swirled around like tiny fighter jets. One dove straight for my ear, and I let out a yelp that could have woken the dead. My daughter, Sophie, watched from the kitchen, spooning cereal while filming me on her phone. "Dad, you're VYRL. The beehive blunder," she said, not looking up. I peeked at her screen. The TikTok already had 7,000 likes. I hadn't even brushed my teeth. I marched to Marge's yard, where she was misting her lavender with something that smelled like regret. She turned, all smiles, like she hadn't just turned my porch into a bee sanctuary. "Ethan, aren't they glorious?" she cooed. "I woke up to bees on my porch, Marge," I said, try not to sound like I was auditioning for a sitcom. She nodded, serene. "It's temporary. Your porch has better sunlight, and your energy aligns with their pollination VYB." I stared, wondering if I'd slipped into a parallel universe where boundaries didn't exist. I tried to argue laws, property, common sense, but she patted my arm and walked away, calling, "Enjoy the honey." I spent the day calling the HOA, but Marge saw the HOA. She'd filed a temporary apiary form, with my signature forged in Comic Sans. The VYC chair sighed. It's her spiritual font. By noon, I'd been stung twice, once on the arm, once on the cheek while trying to reclaim my lawn chair. The bees had colonized it like a buzzing empire. Then my ex-wife, Claire, pulled up in her hybrid SUV, rolling down the window as I limped off the porch with frozen peas on my face. "What happened to you?" she snapped, already dialing someone. "Is this safe for Sophie? If she gets stung, I'm filing for custody." I mumbled, "It's bees." She glared at the hives, calculating a lawsuit, and drove off without dropping Sophie off. Sophie waved, mouthing the epic fail. By evening, I was done with diplomacy. I Googled how to remove beehives legally and stumbled on a Reddit thread called Apiary Anarchy. One comment caught my eye. "Bears love honey. Want bees gone? Call nature's cleanup crew." It was a joke, but it sparked something. I replied, "Anyone know where to rent a bear?" Minutes later, a private message popped up. "Meet me at Ravenwood Trail." "I got you, guy." The sender was Bear Lord, with a profile pic of a one-eyed man and a bear cub in a sling. I stared at the message, then at the bees swarming my porch. I'd lost control of my life. The next morning, I drove to Ravenwood Trail with a cooler of jam, half expecting to be arrested. Fog clung to the ground like a cheap horror, MOVYE. A man stepped from behind a tree to park a patch, voice like gravel. "You Ethan?" he asked. "Depends. You the bear guy?" I replied, clutching my cooler. His name was Hank. He led me through the woods, muttering to squirrels, until we reached a clearing. There, in a cage made of trampoline parts, was Brutusa, Shaggy, massive bear who looked like he'd fought a mountain in one. "He's half grizzly, half genius," Hank said. "Loves jam, hates beekeepers." I handed over the jam. "How's this work?" Hank opened the cage. Brutus lumbered out, devouring the jam with surgical precision. "Drive him to your place," Hank said. "Back seat's fine. Crack a window." Somehow, I ended up DRIVYing home with a bear in my Subaru, licking apricot jam off the seats. Neighbors gaped like I'd parked a UFO. Marge was meditating on her deck when I pulled in. She saw Brutus, gasped, and stood like she'd spotted Satan at a yoga retreat. "You brought a saw wild animal saw here?" she shrieked. "No," I said. "I brought nature's solution." Brutus hopped out, sniffed the air, and ambled to the porch. The bees, sensing a predator, scattered in a golden panic. It was glorious. Brutus poked a hive, then flopped down like he'd just pulled off a heist. Marge screamed, live streaming to her 38 Instagram followers. "I'm under attack. A bear's destroying my healing colony." Brutus ignored her, licking a hive. The bees swirled in a frenzied spiral, maybe unionizing. Then Marge did the unthinkable. She marched out with a bowl of glittery honey. "Brutus, you like this, don't you?" she cooed. The bear sniffed, grabbed the bowl, and waddled to her deck. "He's mine now," Marge declared. "I name him Lord Sweetpaws." By morning, Lord Sweetpaws had a TikTok account with 32,000 followers. A video of him slapping a hive in sunglasses went viral. News vans parked outside. Animal control thought I was pranking them. The HOA held an emergency meeting where Marge arrived with Lord Sweetpaws on a hemp leash, giving a speech about bear stewardship. People clapped. I tried to speak, but was drowned out by pan flute music. Then Hank showed up, storming through the meeting. "That ain't my bear anymore," he growled. "He's chosen chaos." Lord Sweetpaws locked eyes with Hank, then turned back to a kombucha popsicle Marge had made. This wasn't just a bear problem. It was war. The neighborhood splitsome backed Marge's honey utopia. Others feared walking their dogs near a bear with merch. My porch remained a bee-ravaged wasteland. A mayoral candidate used the fiasco to campaign, calling me Porch Pops in a headline that stung worse than the bees. But I had one thing Marge didn't: desperation. Sophie wouldn't sit, scared Lord Sweetpaws would eat her cereal. Then Greg, a former HOA treasurer, slipped me a flash drive. "Marge never got permits for the hives," he whispered. "She's selling unlicensed honey with weird stuff." The drive had receipts, photos of glow nectar jars, and a manifesto where Marge ranted about FDA tyranny. I needed more than Denke. I needed a spectacle. I called Hank. "You were right," I said. "He's chaos. Help me end this." He replied, "Meet me at the gas station by the cemetery. Bring duct tape and a chair." Thus began Operation Honey Blitz. We'd host a fake honey tasting event, posing as a startup selling ethical energy gel. Marge would flaunt her illegal honey to influencers, and we'd record her confessing to shady ingredients. The park was a Pinterest, nightmare eucalyptus centerpieces, whale song covers. Marge arrived in a robe, Lord Sweetpaws in a holistic guard vest. She rambled about bee trauma and handed out samples to a crowd with undercover reporters and animal control posing as bloggers. Then it went wrong. Marge sprayed a bee-summoning pheromone, triggering a hive at her house. A swarm darkened the sky like an apocalypse. People screamed, jars shattered. Marge yelled, "Embrace the healing," before tripping into her honey stand. Lord Sweetpaws rampaged, toppling speakers, and, in a YouTube-worthy moment, defecating in a candidate's van. Hank tossed a tranquilizer dart hidden in jam, and Lord Sweetpaws collapsed, snoring. Marge was arrested. Charges included illegal wildlife, unlicensed food, and swarm endangerment. Brutus was sent to a sanctuary. The bees, leaderless, vanished into the wild. The neighborhood healed. Greg won the HOA election on a no bears platform. My porch was mine again, just me, my chair, and coffee. Sophie came over, bringing a bee-free zone sign and a bear plushie and sunglasses. We laughed, watched a movie, and felt normal. Then I heard a faint buzz. Was it real or trauma? Sophie grinned, sipping lemonade. "Dad, you're trending. Lord Sweetpaws got adopted by a wellness guru." I sighed. Of course he did. This saga left me wondering, was I wrong to unleash a bear, or was Marge's bee invasion the real crime? Should neighbors respect boundaries, or is nature's gift an excuse for chaos? And who's crazier for renting a bear, or Marge for adopting it? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe because you never know what's buzzing next door.